All right. Okay, so learning target number 2 here. This is just one part of it. Just to go up real quick here. Learning target number 2 is converting between all these. So that means not just, and I like, remember this, we crossed this off, I think, on the paper, and we've made this called regular numbers. I don't like to call them decimals because can you have 22.3%, guys? Can that be a percentage? Sure, absolutely. So I don't like calling them decimals because it doesn't mean decimals. So we can convert between fractions, decimal, or regular numbers, and percentages. But just understand that means fractions can become this, fractions can become this, regular numbers can become this, regular numbers can become this, and then of course it can go backwards. This can become this or this. You guys understand that? So that's the whole target. It's converting back and forth between all of those. I would say that this one that you just did is the hardest one of all of them. Okay? Now, if you're going to convert this into a percentage, that's fine. Okay? There's 2 ways to do it. I'm going to show you both ways. So you can write this if you want. You do not have to. The first way I'm going to show you is the proportion method. So method 1 is proportion method. Okay? And like I said, you don't have to do any work here. There will be no work required. But if you know you're trying to make it into a percent, what do you know all percents are out of? 100. Can't you do that and just basically that's what you're trying to figure out? Sure. That makes it actually very easy. So if you did that, you would do 9 times 100, which is 900, divided by 4, which would give you 225%. That's a pretty easy method to do it. Now, I don't want to confuse anybody. If that's not the method you use, that's okay. I'm going to show you the other method. If you did it the other way, method 2 would be using division because all fractions are division problems. So you would do 9 divided by 4, which would give you 2.25. But remember, is that a percentage yet? So for the 3 people that put 2.25, remember, that's just a regular number. So method 2 is when you do 2 steps. You convert it to a regular number and then a percentage. When I'm converting into a percentage, I multiply by 100, which is where we got 225%. Everybody cool on that? All right, let's do one more of those. Let's do one more of that type here. Let's do, this is 3/40. Let's do that one. So we're not doing these other ones here. Same exact skill. Everything's still the same. Okay. Okay, so here we're going to end it here. Okay, now we have some different answers. Okay, now the majority of you did get it right, but I'm a little concerned just because we just went over one just like it. You guys got to use one of the 2 methods that I'm giving you. Okay, don't. Like I said, this is the hardest one of this. These are both right because that one says 7.50. But use one or the other. I don't know where those other numbers came from. Okay. I think somebody in here, whoever got 12.5, I think that's what that said. I think they did 40 divided by 3. So they did bottom number divided by. So that one person, you're not doing. It's always top number divided by bottom number. It's never bottom number divided by top. So just don't make that mistake. Always top divided by bottom on that. Okay. Actually, nobody had that. I thought it said 52. So I don't know where that number would have come from either. Nobody did that, I guess. All right. So again, there's 2 ways to do it. The easiest way, in my opinion, is just that's your part, that's your whole equals percent over 100. That's method 1. So then okay, I'm going to cross multiply. 3 times 100 is 300. And then I'm going to divide it by 40. That's going to give me 7.5. Okay, that seems easy to me. That particular method. You know how to do part and whole questions, percent proportion questions. So why not do it that way? But if you didn't, that's okay. Now we'll do method 2. That is where you know that all fractions are division problems. So you go 3 divided by 40. You're going to get 0.075. Okay, now remember, is that a percent yet?
No.
No, that's a regular number. So once again, there was one person that left it as a regular number. Now we've got to convert it to the percentage. Okay? Everybody got that? So there's where 7.5% comes from. You're moving the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay? Convert that to a regular number. All right, so let's see how we did turning this into a regular number. We have a few different answers here. Obviously, 2 of those bars are going to be correct because this one just says 0 in 400ths. The other one just says 400ths. Same thing, though. Okay, here we had somebody we got 4 thousandths, though. Okay, so remember, all percents are a fraction out of what? Yeah, so, and we know that all fractions are what? Division problems. So if you ever forget whether you multiply or divide by 100, just think about it in those terms. Okay? When you're converting a percent to a regular number, you know that's a fraction, which is a division problem. So you just got to do 4 divided by 100. That's where you're going to get 0.04. For the person that got 0.004, you did one of two things. You either just looked at it wrong. That could have happened. Like maybe you saw that in your calculator and just thought that was the decimals here. I don't know. Or you divided by 1,000, which if that's the case, that's wrong because that's 4%. Percentages aren't out of 1,000; they're out of 100. Everybody got that? Okay, so this would be wrong. It would be 400ths. Okay, now I would like you all to please turn 4% into a fraction, but specifically in simplest form. Did everybody hear me in simplest form?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go. Let's quiet, please. Here's what we did. Okay, so we have one. The answer is 1/25. We have a lot of different answers here, guys, which is very, 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 very concerning. I gave you a pretty easy one here. Now, as I look through the answers, I see 2/5. I see all these different things. Guys, I just wrote up here. What are all percents a fraction out of? 100. And then I don't understand. You know, I understand. If you try to simplify it by yourself, that's fine. Try it. I don't care. But when you're done, please just go back and do 4 ABC in your clicker. 4 ABC 100 in your calculator. I mean, okay. It takes literally 7 seconds to type that in. Not even that. Probably 4 seconds to type it in. And what?
I accidentally put 10 instead of 1.
Okay, we just got to make sure. Always make sure your answer makes sense, guys. Okay, so just be careful with that. I think you all are capable of it. Maybe you would have seen that 4 and 100 both have a factor of 4. That is the GCF, which will put it in simplest form, so that would be 1/25. But these other answers up here, like we had 2 people put 2/50ths. They didn't go in simplest form. 2 and 50 are both even, so they both have a factor of 2. That should never happen on the test. You have a calculator in front of you. If I told everybody right now, you are not allowed to use calculators on this test, would you guys be okay with that?
I would fail.
You guys would be, I would hope you wouldn't fail, but I think you'd be disappointed because a calculator is a tool. It helps you. So why is it that I'm letting you and some of you refuse to use it? That doesn't make any sense, okay? Just please use it, please, okay? And then these other ones, 400s, that person just didn't simplify at all. And then we had a couple people that just forgot, like this person just forgot the slash, so they got it right. Here we had 2/5. I'm assuming they just forgot the 1. Yes.
I did 10 instead of 100 on accident.
Oh, okay. All right, so either way, we got to clean that one up. That's the easiest one of all of them, okay? And that's it for that, okay? So I think we're going to go on, but did I put the right answer in? Yeah, I did. Okay, now, learning target 3. If you want to write this, you guys are all pretty good at this one. It is just finding percent of a number. So as I go here, I'll find what I'm looking for here. Thought it was right here. Here it is. Okay, we're going to do one of these. We'll just do one of these real quick. And there's 2 ways you could do it. Go ahead and do number 7. Do number 7. It's 5% of 20. Okay, so we had the majority of you get 1, which was the correct answer. We did have one person for 25. Now let's talk about it. First of all, remember that little prediction thing I talked about at the beginning of the year, or at the beginning of this chapter? Okay, could 5% of, if you have a 20-pound bag, if you have a 20-pound bag of dog food, and you said, I just give them 5% every day, could it be 25 pounds of dog food?
No.
No, you can't. If you got 5%, that's barely having any. Okay, if you got a 5% on the test, did you get basically any of the questions right? Maybe 1 or 2 questions, okay? So you got to think about it in those terms. Okay, now there's 2 ways to do it. The first way is to follow this method, which is in your notes. You can follow those 3 steps. Remember, that's the one where you convert this to a regular number. Again, we know that that's 5 divided by 100, which is going to be 0.05. Of means multiply, 0.05 times 20. Okay? I don't know if the person that did just added here or what, but regardless, of means multiply. We got to convert that to a regular number. We do that, we would get 1. The other way you could do it would be the learning target 5 method. That's where you do the percent proportion. Remember, part over whole equals percent over 100. Now, what word will help us to identify the part, Alyssa? Is. What word will help us to identify the whole, Nathan? Of. Good. So when I look at this, where's that going to go?
Percent.
And a percent, obviously. It has a percent. Whenever you see that symbol, you know it goes there. And then it's of 20, so obviously 20 is the whole. So this will be learning target 5. I can identify, or I can determine the part when given the percent and the whole. Okay, we're trying to figure out the part. So you would cross, multiply. What's 20 times 5? 100. What's 100 divided by 100? 1. Do I care which way you do it?
Nope.
I do not care. However you want to do it. I don't want to confuse you and give you multiple methods, but I think it's important because some people prefer the proportion. Some people prefer just to turn it in. But the only thing that I think gets tricky is some people mess this up. Whereas this proportion, it's so easy. It takes the multiplying or dividing by 100 out of it because you just follow the process of solving the proportion. On the video, real quick, just so you know, there are these on the formative. So there could be one that says it'll give you a big chart. It'll say this is. I'm not going to put all the lines in there, but there's 10 by 10 grid. And it'll say, I want you to model 22%. How many of the little squares would you shade? 22 of them. I don't think we need to go, that's pretty easy. And then 100% would be all of one. If you went above 100, you'd have another 10 by 10 grid. Okay? All right. Strip diagrams. Let's quickly just remind ourselves, these are the only methods that we can cut our strip diagram up, right? We can cut it into 50% and 50%. Have we even used that one yet, guys? No, that one's really not even helpful. The only 3 really are these 3 that we use. This one, you're cutting it into 25% sections, right? This one, you're cutting it into 20% sections, and this 10% sections. So if the percentage that was given in the problem was 75%, would you use number 1 or number 2 or number 3?
1.
Number 1. If it was 60%, would you use number 1, 2, or 3?
2 and 3.
You could use 2 or 3. If it was 30%, would you use number 1 or number 2 or number 3?
3.
You'd use 3 because that's the only place we can see 30% would be 3 of them. I don't know if 30% would be about halfway between here, right? Because 20, 10, and 10 would be 30. Okay? Everybody got that? Okay. Just want to make sure. Now we're going to practice some strip diagrams here. So let me find the page that I'm looking for. Let's start right here. I'll move it over. Okay, let's start on this one right here. Go ahead and give me you got a model. You can draw the strip diagram. Then you need to find the answer to the question. All right. Okay, guys. So here's our answer. So the majority of you did get it correct. I think the answer is 8. I don't know. I hope it is. I didn't really do it yet. But we had 3 people get it wrong. But remember, your strip diagram has to match. So you're basically going to self-grade your strip diagram to make sure it looks like mine. Okay, now let's read it first of all. Andrew was given an allowance of $20. 40% of this allowance was used to go to the movies. How much money was spent on the movies? Okay. Now, I told you guys the first thing you always have to identify is the what? Isn't it the percentage?
Yeah.
Because that's how you actually get, that's what's going to tell you how to cut up your strip diagram. Remember, there's 3 ways you can cut it up. Into 4 25% sections, 5 20% sections, or 10 10% sections. So 40%, how did you guys cut it up? How should I cut up 40% how should I cut it up, the whole 100%, to be able to see where 40% is? Yes. I'm going to cut it into 520s because I know that 2 of them would represent 40%. Does everybody agree with that? Okay, now remember, every time I want to see both the percentage, you're always going to have a percent in each part of the strip, and you're also going to have some real amount of something, whether it be some sort of candy or money or something. It's going to be a real number. So I've gone through. What does the whole strip always represent? 100%. Now, we're talking about the whole strip. We're talking about money, so wouldn't this be like the total money? Right? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be the total money. Okay? Now, it says he was given an allowance of $20. So we've got to really ask ourselves, is that $20 representing a part, or is it representing the whole strip? Like, is it just representing...
Sorry.
It's okay. Is it representing the entire thing, or is it representing just a section of it? That's what we've got to figure out. Okay, so what do you guys think? Is that $20? Is that 100%, or would it be, basically here it becomes the question. This from right here is either $20 or the whole 100% is the $20. What do you guys think? The whole 100%, because remember, look at what the question's asking. He spent 40% on his allowance to go to the movies. Well, if it's asking for how much money was spent on the movies, you obviously don't know how much he spent on the movies. The only thing you know is that the whole strip is representing $20. Okay? Now, think back to bar modeling from chapter 5. We always try to figure out what? Don't we want to figure out one section of the strip? So we already know that one section is 20%, right? Don't we need to know an actual amount of money? And I'm going to use a different color. Don't we want to know an actual amount of money for each piece of this strip? Right? Yes. So that's what we need to figure out there. Okay? So how am I going to do that? Well, if I know that the whole strip is $20, I'm going to take that and I'm going to divide it by however many pieces I have, which is 5. That's going to put $4 in each part of my strip. $4. $4. Okay? Well, if I know that this 40%, the two sections, and I'll highlight those in yellow now, even though it's already pink, but that's okay. If I know that that's the amount that he spent on the movies, and that's 40% of his allowance, don't I know that he must have spent $8 at the movie theater? Right? Yeah, sure. Now let's do a percent proportion to check. So we know it's part over whole equals percent over 100. Well, we know the percent's 40 because it's got a percent sign, right? We just have to identify, is that, remember this 40% is the amount he spent on the movies. So that means the part must be the actual amount he spent on the movies. And obviously the whole is going to be the total, some total amount. So, is $20 the part of the whole, guys? Absolutely. Cross multiply, divide by 100, that would give you $8. So we just checked. But if your percent proportion doesn't look like this on the formative or the summative, it's going to be wrong. Does everybody understand that? Okay. All right, let's do one more of these. All right, I want to do this one right here. Now, it's really hard to read. I apologize, but I can help you read it. Okay, so the correct answer is 250. So we did have a couple wrong, but I'm pretty happy with this. I mean, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, so I'm pretty pleased with that. Okay, Lynn is saving money to buy a computer. She has saved $150. This, meaning this, is only 60% of the amount that she needs. Does she have enough money to buy the computer right now? No. So right now, when we do our strip diagrams, everybody should already be putting it equals 100%, and it always equals some sort of total. So in this case, the whole strip is going to represent the total cost of the computer. Everybody agree with that? So I always just like to put the labels, and then I'm going to ask myself, okay, do I know that, or do I just know part of it? Okay, how much money does she need to buy the computer? Okay, first thing we identify is the what, guys?
The percent.
The percent. Because that's going to tell us how we even need to cut our strip diagram up. What do you think the best way to cut our strip diagram up in this case, Ava?
5 sections, 20%.
Yeah. Could I also cut it into 10% sections?
Yeah.
Sure I could. But why make extra work for yourself? If it's 60%, make it 20s. If it was 70%, you'd have to go 10% sections though, right? Okay. So now make sure everybody's doing it like I am. Make sure you actually put the percents with percent signs after it. No, you got to have labels on this stuff. Okay, it even helps to maybe use a different color, I think, just because it helps you to be able to identify that each piece of the strip represents not only a percentage, but it represents an actual amount of money. Okay, now, I know that each one of these is representing money, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about money. And then obviously we're talking about percentages. So we know that money's the other piece in there. Now, what we have to figure out is if 150 goes here or if 150 is just a part of it. That's where you got to become real careful readers, and you guys did a great job with it. Okay? It said that this is only 60% of the amount she needs. She doesn't have enough. So that means 3 of these sections, 20 plus 20 plus 20 is 60, represents the amount. This is only 60% of the amount that she needs, right? So she needs that amount. Okay, well remember the whole point of a bar model in general, any bar model you've ever done, is to figure out 1. to do a unit rate, essentially. So we learned that right there, that's going to be $50, $50, $50. I found that by doing 150 divided by 3. And again, I knew that 150 was only 60%, which that is why we did 150 divided by 3. That would mean that all of these would be 50. And then we would say, okay, well, if we want to know how much money she needs to buy the computer, we would do 50 plus 50 plus 50 plus 50 plus 50 to give us $250. Now, quickly, the percent proportion would look like this. We would do part to whole equals percent over 100. We know that the percent is the easy one to identify, and then we know that this is just a part. Okay, so that's $150, and there we go. Cross multiply divide, it would give you $250. That's just a little check for you. Okay. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to skip learning target 5, 6, and 7 because that's essentially what you just did. Okay. The only other one that you'll have to do, because right there, like that right there, guys, that's learning target number.
5, 6, 7.
It is specifically number 5. That would be learning target number 5 right there. I can determine the whole when given the part and the percent. Up here, this would be learning target number 6. I can determine the whole, or wait, no. I'm sorry. I had that backwards, didn't I? When I said it. I can determine the whole when given the part in percent. Up here, this is I can determine the part when given the whole in percent. You guys see it? That's learning target 5 and 6. The only other thing we didn't do there, we're not going to model, is the ones that look like this. Let me find one for you guys. Like here. This one. Let's go ahead and do this one actually. We'll just do that one. Go ahead. This will be learning target number 6. Or I'm sorry, 7. 7. We'll do that real fast. You should be doing a percent proportion on that. Whoops, sorry, do it again. Okay, so the answer was 60, so that's really good. Everybody got it right. We did have one person not get in. Sorry about that. But just remember, I'll just quickly show you. Just remember, it's part to whole. This is learning target number 7 equals percent over 100. This is one where you don't know the percent. So you are finding the percent when you're given the part and the whole. So again, remember, use those words, is and of, to help you out. It's something you just got to kind of memorize. I hate using that word, but it's something you just got to know that those words will help you. That is going to represent the whole. Is 63 is representing the part, so you know it's here. And then from there, you can just cross multiply and divide. You will get 60%. Okay? All right. Okay, let's go right here. Okay, this is going to be one I'm just going to make up. This is going to be a tax. So you went to a restaurant. Your food cost for your family $60.32.
What learning target?
This is learning target 8. This is 8. This is fine. I can find tax, tip, and discount. Your tax amount is going to be 7%. Your tip amount, you're a really good tipper. You're going to leave 18%. Yep, we got really good service. Now, as I look through the answers, there's some crazy answers going on here.
Whoa.
Okay, yeah, it's really not great. So you guys got to practice this. It's something that you're going to have to go home and practice. We probably should have done more in class, but you guys have got to be practicing. Okay, this isn't the, 45.24. Think about that for a second. We had somebody put $45. You're saying that the food costs $60, and you paid tax and tip, and all of a sudden it went down $15. That doesn't really make any sense. I don't know if you're subtracting, thinking it's discount or what. But here's $53, $71. I mean, at least these are at least in the ballpark. But those two down there are way too low. You're saving money. Okay, now there's 2 ways to do it. I will show you method 1 first, so please watch. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. So method 1 is when you do the proportion. Remember that, guys? So basically you have a tax proportion, you have a tip proportion. Okay, so I do my percent proportion, part to whole, equals percent over 100. I know that the tax percentage is 7. I put that there. My food bill is always going to be, quit packing up and listen, please, is going to be $60.32. When I cross multiply and divide here, that's going to give me $4.22. Okay, my tip is, and I do the same thing, part to whole. My tip amount is 18%, so I put 18 there. Once again, my food bill is going to be $60.32. We cross multiply and divide there, we get, was it $10.86? that what everybody got? Okay. $10.86. So now, all we have to do at this point is we know the amount that's going to tax. We know the amount that's going to our server. We know how much we paid for our food and drinks. What do we got to do with all those? We need to add them all up. And when you do that, you're going to get $75, and you get that in your calculator. But remember, money always goes to two places. Now hold on. Don't leave yet. Let's do method 2 up here. And I don't care which method you choose, but I kind of feel like method 1 kind of takes it makes it less complicated, I feel like anyway. But you guys do it however you want. Okay? We have a tax. This is the learning target 3 method. And then we have tip. Basically, we're going to do, for tax, we're going to find 7% of 6032. For tip, we're going to find 18% of 6032. So we're just going to do the learning target 3, guys. Please stop. Okay, we got to convert that to a regular number. That's going to become 0.07 times $60.32. 18 divided by 100 would give me 0.18 or 1800ths. Becomes multiplied times that. Either way, you're still going to get 422 for tax. You're going to get 1086 for tip. You're going to get your food bill. You just need to add tax, tip, and food. Now, if it's a discount or a savings, we would subtract it from the total. Okay, you guys are going to want to go home and practice Learning Target 8 because we only had 68% of you get that question correct, which isn't good enough. Okay? All right, see you guys. All right, so this is the first learning target. So on your paper, you may want to write Learning Target 2. You don't have to write the target, but at least if you know what learning target we're about to work on Learning Target 2, you may want to write Learning Target number 2. You may want to write Learning Target number 2. And then that way you know if you miss any of these, you can go back and practice them. So first of all, do we call them decimals or what do I call them? Regular numbers. So really the target should read, and I think I did this on the video too, is we want these to be called regular numbers. Okay, so here's where we're going to start. We're going to start first off by converting. I'm just going to write the question. Don't worry about this other stuff. I'll just go down here and use the blank space down here. Okay? All right. I'm going to have you turn a regular number into a percentage. You guys ready for that?
Yeah.
So let's go 2.6. I would like you to turn that into a percentage. Go. And you're putting it in your clicker. 2.6. Turn it into a regular number. Okay. So we had some different answers here. The correct answer was 260. Now, whoops. Oh, it doesn't matter. Yeah, that says 0, 260, but it doesn't matter. 260 is the correct answer. We had 2 people have 26. We have 1 person putting just 6. We have 0.0029, 0.026. So a lot of craziness going on there for something that hopefully right now you guys will be better at. Okay? You got 62% of you got that question correct. When you're going from a regular number to a percentage, remember, anytime you're converting between percents and regular numbers, it's either you're going to be multiplying by 100 or you're dividing by 100. Okay? Everybody got that? Well, if you think about it from the percent side, like 4%, wouldn't that be the fraction 4 out of 100? So wouldn't that be doing dividing by 100? So it's opposite if you're making it into a percentage. So whenever a regular number is becoming a percentage, and you may want to write this so you have it, we are going to be multiplying by 100. Okay? I see some of you just simply trying to just move the decimal. Guys, please don't do that. Okay, please, please, please. Think about it in terms of multiplying or dividing by 100. We are multiplying by 100, so we would do 2.6 times 100. That would give us 260%. Okay, not 26, that's just multiplying by 10. Okay, everybody got that? Please don't just rely on moving the decimal 2 to the right or the left. Rely on multiplying or dividing by 100. Okay, now let's convert this percent right here. I'll write it up here. Let's go 24% into a fraction in simplest form. Did everybody hear me? A fraction in simplest form. Go. So we had, go ahead and, that's the correct answer, 6/25. Go ahead and hit that, please. Okay, Now we had, I don't know what that, I think that says 7/25. That might have just, I'm not sure. And then we had 2.4. I don't. 1/24th and I'm concerned on where those are coming from, guys. That's really concerning, those last couple there, because if you don't know what a fraction is, that's kind of a big deal. Okay, we got to remember that all percents are a fraction out of what, guys?
100.
So 24 out of 100. Now from here, I'm okay with you guys trying to simplify them. If you want to do it this way, like without a calculator, that's fine. If you want to do it this way, we end up getting 6/25, which is the answer. But here's the thing. When you get done, take the extra 4 seconds and just do 24 ABC 100. Just quickly do that, just to make sure it gives you that. And if it doesn't, you'll save yourself missing one question, because I honestly think some of you are just missing them because you're messing up the math part of it, like the division part of it. You're not dividing right or whatever, and you know what you're doing. You're just making that error. So please, 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 please use your calculator. If I told everybody in here we weren't using calculators on this test, would you guys be okay with that? No, you probably wouldn't. So here's my thing. I'm not okay with you not using it then. All right? Okay. All right, now I want to turn, let's go, this fraction into a regular number.
Is this still learning target number 2?
It's all learning target 2, because remember, learning target 2, stop for a second, guys. I want to make sure everybody understands this. Learning target 2 is converting between. So that means fractions can become regular numbers. Fractions can become percents. But then regular numbers can become fractions. Regular numbers can become percents. But then also percents can become regular numbers. Percents can become fractions. So it's converting between all three of them back and forth. I got a lot of you missing these. And guys, I'm sorry. I know this is kind of tricky but you guys got to practice. I hope you guys are taking this as kind of a wake-up call, because this kind of sets up the rest of the chapter. If you struggle with this, you're going to struggle with the rest of the chapter. Okay? 1.6, I'm going to show you where these answers came from. Now, now look, I'll just start here. We know that all fractions are division problems, right?
Yeah.
Top number divided by bottom number, or numerator divided by denominator, or dividend divided by divisor, however you want to think about it. Okay? When you do that, you're going to get 0.625. It doesn't matter if you put 0 there, it's the same thing. Okay? That's optional. But when I look back at the answers here real quick, I see 2 people put 0. Maybe they didn't finish typing it, or they just didn't know. And that's, like I said, that's a little bit concerning, but hopefully now you feel better about it. You're going to need to go back and review. You may want to write yourself a note, fractions to regular numbers. That's something you need to practice. This person, or actually let's go to this person, got 1.6. Now what they did, they actually did 8 divided by 5 to get that. That's not how you do it. It's always top number divided by bottom number. Everybody understand that?
Yes.
Okay, and then the person that had 0.00625, they got this as their answer, and then I believe they divided by 100 for some reason. Okay? The only time you're dividing by 100 is when you have a percent. That's not a percentage. Okay? All right, everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Now, if I were going to make 0.625 into a percentage, what would I do? I would multiply by 100. That would give me 62.5%. Okay? So if you're still struggling with converting between regular numbers, percentages, and fractions, you're going to want to go home and review Learning Target 2. You're going to want to write yourself a little note saying on 2, you still need some work on that. Okay? And there's some stuff that you can practice on with the video and things like that. Okay? Let's go on to, we're going to skip Learning Target 3 for now, because we're going to hit this again, but I think most of you think those are pretty easy. We're going to go ahead and go to Learning Target 4. We're going to practice a couple strip diagrams. We're going to practice a couple here as soon as I find them. Here we go. Okay. Now, I'm going to do the first one here with you. So you guys just need to listen for a second. And I'm going to go over one. Okay? Now, first thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to read it. The band has saved... Actually, I don't want to do that one first. Actually, I will. Okay. The band has saved $3,200 for their upcoming field trip. Do you think that's important information? Okay. $3,200 for their upcoming field trip. This, meaning this, accounts for only 40%. Do you think that 40% is important?
Yes.
Okay, so this accounts for only 40% of the total cost of the field trip. We want to know what is the total cost of the trip. Model this on the above strip diagram. Now, I'm going to flash forward here. I'm going to remind you of something. You remember this? This is the only way. Well, no, that's not it. Find it. There it is.
Yeah.
Okay, there's only basically 3 ways we can cut a strip diagram up. Remember, this one up here would be cutting it into 50% and 50%. But did we ever use that one? We haven't used that one. The only 3 that you're going to use are number 1, number 2, and number 3. Okay? Now this one's cut into 4 pieces, which means what size percent is each piece? Eve? We know that's going to be 25% in each one. Right? Okay? Here we got 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What percent sections is that going to be, Lakin? Those are going to be 20% sections, and then I won't write it, but it'll be 20 in all those. Okay? What is this one going to be? Yes?
10%.
10% sections. So if I wanted to figure out which one of these would allow me to see 75%, which one would I use? 75%. What do you guys think? Number 1 or number 2 or number 3? Let's vote. So 1, 2, or 3? I said 75%. Which one of these, number 1, number 2, or number 3, is going to allow me to be able to see where 75% is? That's what I want to check out. 75%. Which one of those would allow me to see 75%? Okay, why aren't we all in, guys? What's going on?
2, 20.
Where's Eunice? Eunice, you gonna go?
Vote 1, 2, or 3.
Tyler, why aren't you in?
What?
Put yours in.
No.
We shouldn't have to tell you more than once for this.
Okay. Okay, it came down between 1 or 2. We didn't have anybody put 3. Here's my thing, guys. Look here. It is number 1. Look. I know that 25, 25, and 25 would make what percent? That's 75%. There is no way to be able to get to 75 here. I got 20. Okay, if I add another 20, that's 40. If I add another 20, that's 60. If I add another 20, that's 80. I skipped over 75%. The only one that would show me 75 would be that one. Number 1. Okay? All right. So those are the only 3 ways you can cut the strip diagram up. Those are the only 3 we're going to use. So you need to know those 3 ways. And if you don't, then you need to definitely review those. Okay, now going back to my question. Like I said, I'm going to do this one for us so that you guys can just be watching. Okay? What does the whole strip always represent? 100%, obviously. It also is going to equal, and I don't have enough room here, but it's always going to represent some sort of total. Now, we may know the total, we may not know the total, right? We could know part of the strip, or we could know the whole strip. Okay? Because that says 40% right there, how should I cut my strip diagram up? How do you think I should cut it up, Carly?
20%.
I'm going to cut it into 20% sections, so that's going to be 5 sections of 20%. So that's going to be 20%. What? You could also do 10% sections, absolutely. But you're kind of creating more work for yourself if you do that. Okay? All right. Now, should I go ahead and shade 40%? Can I do that?
Yeah.
Sure, because that obviously means something. We don't know what it means yet, but let's keep thinking. All right? Now, the band has saved $3,200. What you really have to be able to identify is whether that $3,200 is representing like a part of the strip, or is it representing the total or the whole? And this is what we've got to figure out. Now, one little trick you can always use to help you to do that, to figure that out, just read the question. If the question is asking for what is the total cost, can 3,200 be the total, guys? I'll ask again. If it is asking for the total cost of the trip, can 3,200 be the total cost?
No.
No, because what would be the question then? If it said you wouldn't even have to do any of this. You would already know the answer is 3,200. So 3,200 would be a part of the strip, and it would be this part right here, right? It would be the 40%. So that's representing $3,200. Okay, everybody got that so far? We do not know the total cost. That's what we've got to figure out. Remember, the whole point to a bar model of any kind is to figure out how much is in one. Now, we already figured out that one of these pieces was 20%. Now we need to figure out how much money would be in each one of these pieces, right?
Yeah. It's 100, 60.
So let's look here. We're going to highlight one of them. How am I going to figure out how much money is going to be in each one of these sections? How am I going to figure that out? Asia? I'm going to divide it by 2. The reason I'm dividing it by 2 is because they have only saved 40% of their trip. So this 3,200 is only part of it. It's only 2 of these pieces. They still have to save 60%, right? So when I do that, I'm going to get 1,600, 1,600, 1,600, 1,600, and 1,600. Now can I figure out the total cost of this trip?
Yeah.
Sure. I know that it's 1,600, 1,600, 1,600, 1,600, 1,600. Added together would give us,
8,000.
what is it?
8,000.
$8,000. Is that right? Yeah. $8,000. Does everybody understand that? Now, if I'm doing my percent proportion to check, it would look like this. Remember, it's part to whole equals percent over 100. Okay? And I know the percent's always easy to identify. That's 40. Now, remember, that's how much they've saved, which I know this must be the actual amount they've saved, which is 3,200. We knew the part, so that's a part. We cross multiply divide, we would get 8,000. So that's just a check. Everybody got that?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have you guys do. All right, so this is learning target 5. So remember, we're doing this percent proportion, guys. This is probably the easiest aspect of the chapter for sure. I mean, you guys seem to do well. You just got to remember those key words. What word helps us to identify the part? Haley? Very nice. Is. What word helps us to identify the whole? Yeah. Now, this one's a little bit confusing. Now, obviously, that's easy to identify, right? Whenever you see the percent sign, that's easy. But when I look at 17, it doesn't have an is or an of in front of it. But here's what it does say. It says of what number? So aren't we trying to figure out the whole?
Yep.
Because we don't know. We're saying of what? We don't know what the of is. Okay? So we know that 17 is the part. We're going to cross multiply, and then we are going to divide, and that is going to give me 25.75. Okay? Everybody go with that? Okay, you're going to need to practice. Just real quick, I want to make sure you can't read that, but learning target number 5, 6, and 7 are all the same. It's all about, like learning target 5 is finding the whole when given the part and the percent. Learning target 6 is finding it'd be one like this, where you know the whole, say the whole was 10, and the percent was 20%, and then this was 100. You know the whole and the percent, you're trying to find the part. Okay, that's 5 and 6. And then learning target number 7 is when you're trying to find the percent. Okay, so if I gave you something like this, part over whole, and you knew this was 5 out of 10, is what percent out of 100? That's what we're looking for. You guys understand that? So 5, 6, and 7 are just the percent proportions. That's all it is. And you're going to have word problems like these that you're going to have to do this percent proportion. You pretty much have to do that percent proportion on every question. Okay? Pretty much. Okay, let's go on and try one of these. Okay, so you went to eat and your food cost $52.16. Your tax, where you were, was 7.5%. You're a really, really good tipper, so you are leaving 23% tip. Okay, I want to know what the total cost of your bill was, including tax and tips. So for the person that's buying the meal, how much are they going to have to pay? Listen. All right, so here we go. Now, I don't know what the right answer is. That's probably it, but we'll come back to it in a minute. But this is there's a lot of little things that go into this. I'm going to first of all show you method 1. Now, I prefer method 1 because I think it takes the opportunity to make little silly mistakes out of it. So I would like for you to do method 1. Anytime you have percents involved, you have to find the percent of that. Because remember, tax on my $52 bill is going to be different than tax on a $95 bill, right? You guys understand what I'm saying? So it's going to be more. So that's why you've got to recalculate the tax. So you've got to do 2 separate proportions. I'm going to have a tax proportion, and then I'm going to have a tip proportion. Okay? So
It's good to label them too, guys.
Absolutely. We know this is going to be part to whole equals percent over 100. I do this every time I label tax and I label tip because I don't want to get confused and do the same one twice, or, weird things can happen. So I always like to keep everything kind of organized. Now I'm going to go ahead and put 7.5 there because the percent always goes there. Now, you have to find 7.5% of this. Think about that. So what is that? Is that a whole or a part? Hello? That's a whole, so $52.16 goes there. Now before I calculate, I'm just going to come down and do my tip. Okay, so this is going to be part, this is going to be whole, goes percent over 100. I know that I'm a big tipper, so I'm leaving 23%, and my food bill is still $52.16. That didn't change. Okay, now from here, we're going to cross multiply and we're going to divide by 100. Okay, and I think it gives you, anybody got it? 390. Does it give you this right here?
391.
It gives you that, right?
Yeah.
Now, just keep in mind, how do we round money? To 2 places, so pennies. So we look to this number. If the number you're looking to on the right is 5 or more, then it's going to go up 1 penny. If it's 4 or less, it's going to stay right where it is. So since this is 4 or less, we basically forget about it, and we say this is $3.91. So that's how much money will be going to the government. That's how much you're going to be, or this person's going to be paying in tax.
Tyler, get your head up.
All right? Now, down here, you cross multiply and divide. What do you get when you type it in your calculator? Do you remember?
Wait.
When I cross multiplied, I get what?
11.9968.
996. Okay, now this is a little bit of a trickier one because we haven't worked too much with this, but still, look, this is either going to be $11.99 or what? $12. That 1 penny up would make it be $12, right? So, since that 6 tells that 9 to go up 1 penny, it's going to then make it $12 even. Okay? That is the amount of money that's going to be going to my server, my waiter, or my waitress. Okay? Well, now I've got to figure out my total bill. If I know that my food cost $52.16, and I know that my tax is $3.91, and my tip was $12, I'm going to add all those 3 things up, and that's how I'm going to get my total price, or my total cost, which is $68.07, right?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Now, keep something in mind real quick. I'm going to do one more of these on the video, and I did the one in second period, so you got 2 on the video that you could be watching on this that already happened before this video, and there's going to be one that's going to happen next period. Okay? Go back and try them. Quit packing up, quit packing up, quit packing up. Make sure, guys, I didn't get to do one of these, but discount works the same way. Okay? You still, like if I said a pair of boots were $20, and I said they were 10% off, you would do everything the same way. You would set up a proportion, figuring out what 10% off was. So your boots, the cost of the boots would still be 20. You'd still cross multiply and divide. This would be how much you're saving, or how much the discount is. Since it's a discount, you're going to take this and not add it to 20, but what are you going to do? You're going to subtract it from 20. Okay? Video. But I want to make sure you're understanding. Learning target 2 is converting between fractions, not, what do I want to call these? Not decimals, but what? Regular numbers. Now, just regular numbers are just like 4.2. 3.9. There's no percent sign, there's no fraction bar. It's just a regular old number. Okay? So there we go. The whole target, though, guys, understand this. it's converting between all three of them. So it is taking a fraction and converting it into a regular number, or converting it into a percentage. Or it's taking a regular number and converting it into a fraction or a percentage. You guys see how this works? Or it's taking a percent and converting it to a regular number or to a fraction. So it goes every which way possible. They can all become each other by those steps. So we're going to practice those here first. All right, so the first one I'm going to do is, don't even worry about these up here. I'm just going to make some up. Okay, we are going to, first of all, I'm going to start with the easiest one, or what I think is the easiest one. We are going to convert this right here, 12%, into a fraction in simplest form. Special emphasis on simplest form. If you do not have a calculator on your desk, you are wrong. You need to get one. Okay, go ahead and convert that to a fraction in simplest form. The correct answer was, I think that's 3/25.
Yeah, it's 3/25.
Okay, now, listen up, guys. This is part of learning target number 2. This is the part where you would be converting a percentage into a fraction. Now, I think that this is probably the easier one of the two. Well, there's more than two, but of the conversions, this is probably the easiest one. What are all percents a fraction out of?
100.
12 out of 100. And then from there, sure, you can simplify it the old school way of doing it by the GCF like you learned. And that's fine. I'm totally cool with that. But when you guys get done, I just really badly want you guys to go back and do 12 ABC 100 just to confirm that you do get that. And you would. Okay, just remember, all percentages are a fraction out of 100, which would, if we were turning that into a regular number, we would do 12 divided by 100, right? Turning a percent into a regular number, we're dividing by 100. Everybody got that? Okay, so if 12%, I would do 12. It's 12 out of 100, which would mean 12 divided by 100, which would give you 0.12 or 0.12. Okay? All right, now we're going to turn a percent into a regular number. This is going to be, let's go 7%. I would like you to convert that to a regular number, please. Okay, so we're kind of all over the place. Thank you. Okay, now I don't know. I think that says 0.07. Now these two bars, that's what I'm thinking. These two will both be correct once he's got it typed in.
You can click it in there. No.
Oh, whoops. I can't see your head.
Okay. Just let me help control the mouse.
All right, well, let's do something here. Are you ready? All right, there we go. So we had 18 of you got it right, but we still had some wrong answers here, as you can see. Okay, just remember, guys, I just went over that. That was kind of a test, because literally right before I put this problem up there, I did a quick refresher on how to turn a percent into a regular number. We still had people missing. Okay, remember, this is a fraction out of 100, right, guys?
Yeah.
And all fractions are what? Division problems. So this is 7 divided by 100. And that's going to give you 0.07. For the people that just want to move the decimal, you're going to get it wrong. It's whenever you're converting between percents and regular numbers, guys, remember, you're either multiplying by 100 or you're dividing by 100. Since this can become a fraction out of 100, you got to know that you'd be dividing by 100. Everybody got that? Okay. You may want to write this on your paper. Going from percent to regular is going to be dividing by 100. Everybody understand that? Okay. So dividing by 100. Okay? All right, we're going to do another one now. Now we're going to convert a fraction into a regular number. Whoops. We're going to go from a fraction to a regular number. The fraction is going to be 9 over 4. No, I'm sorry. Make that, we're going to make it 12 over 5. Okay? Do that to a regular number. That's what it's supposed to be. Now, there's a bunch of you that need to make a note on your paper because there's a lot of people missing something. And it's the same thing over and over. I keep repeating myself and then doing one exactly like it to see if you guys are like listening or catching on. Something's not clicking right now. Okay, but as I look at this right here, if I'm converting this into a regular number, we've been talking about it the whole time, guys. All fractions are division problems. I mean, I've said it. We've done one of these every single time now. We've gone through them. This is 12 divided by 5. I got people in the answers doing 5 divided by 12. Have we ever done bottom number divided by top number? Ever? No. Never. When you do that, you're going to get 2.4. Then I had people putting 240%. Am I asking for a percentage there? Guys, I'm concerned. Learning target number 2 is the kind of the basis of the whole chapter. And if you struggle with this, you gotta practice. That's the only way you're gonna get better. I know it's a little bit confusing, but if you go home and practice, you'll get better at it. It's not a skill. It's almost like memorizing. Almost. Okay. You just gotta put more time into it. Now, if I were gonna turn that into a percent, sure, I would multiply by 100. Okay. So learning target number 2 definitely needs some work, guys. Definitely. Let's go on to learning target number 4. Okay, real quick. Remember, this is really there are 4 methods to split your strip diagram up, guys. Like this one would be 50-50. But did we ever really use this one? We really don't. We really don't use it. You could, I mean, if it was 50 or 100%, but that really doesn't make any sense. Okay, so we really use number 1, number 2, and number 3. This one's cut into 4 pieces, so that means how big or how much percent is each section, Lucy? 25%. This is in your notes, by the way, so you can always refer to this. But this is the only 3 ways that we're going to be cut and strip up. This one's 5 pieces, so this is going to be 20% in each one, right? This one's going to be 10% in each section. Manny, sit up. Okay? Now I got a question for everybody. Let's see how we do. This answer is either going to be number 1, number 2, or number 3. If I gave you a big problem, and I were to say, if I gave you a problem and it had all this information, but whatever it was talking about, it doesn't matter, and it used the percent 60%. 60%. Would you use strip diagram number 1, number 2, or number 3? Put it in your clicker. Go. If it was 60%, would you use strip diagram number 1, number 2, or number 3? Okay, just need 24 to get in. Okay, see how we did? Okay, so most everybody said number 2. Here's the deal, the answer, I can't put multiple answers in. There's no way I can do that in this. But you could also do number 3, right? Number 1, you absolutely could not do it, guys. Think about it. We have 25%. We have 25 and 25 would be 50%. Another section, that would be 75%. There's no way to see where 60%. Sure, it'd probably be about right there. But you can't do it that way. You can't just, it has to be perfect amount of sections that represent that percentage. Whereas these ones down here, I could legitimately say, okay, I could have 1 20% section, 2, and 3. Would that be 60%, guys? Or I could do how many of these?
6.
I could do 6 of those. Which, as you can see, I made these a certain way to where you can see they're the same exact size. You see that, guys? One's just broken into twice as many pieces. But you could not use this one for 60%. Now, if I would have said 75%, which one would you use? Number 1, right? Because that would be 75. Okay, everybody got that? What if I said this one? What if I said 30%? 30%. Go ahead and key in. What do you guys think? 30%. 30%. Which one would you use if we were trying to find 30%? Would you use number 1, number 2, or number 3? See how we did? Okay. The majority of you put 3. Guys, I'm concerned with 2 of you here putting 1. Okay. If it's 30%, there is no way to see 30% there. One section would be 25, 2 would be 50. There's no, you can't. It has to be perfect amounts. Okay. The only way you could see 30 is you couldn't do this one because this would be 20 and 40 if you did 2. So that one's out. This one's out. This one would be 1, 2, and 3. That's the only way you could show 30%. Okay, now let's go do one. Okay. All right, so it looks like most of us got it right, which is pretty cool. Now, the question really becomes whether or not you got it right from the model. Because when I'm grading your tests, I'm going to be grading your model as much as the answer. So if you get an answer that's right, but your model's just completely way off, I'm not going to give you credit for that because the target says I can visually represent percents using a strip diagram. Okay, that's great that you found the answer, but you've got to be able to represent it through the strip diagram. So let's go through this one. In the 6th grade, 60 students finished all of their homework before class was over. So I'll just underline that because that's important, right? Now, real quick, what does the whole strip represent? Now, I'm going to zoom out a little bit, but I think you'll be able to still be able to see it. What does the whole strip always represent? Yes. 100%, always. That's the whole point. Okay? And doesn't it always equal some sort of total amount of something? So whatever we're talking about, we could be talking about money, we could be talking about Skittles, we could be talking about anything. Cats, dogs, it could be anything. Animals, whatever. Okay? It's always going to represent a percent and then a total amount of something. Now let me zoom back in. Now, we've got to figure out, well, before we do that, we know that 60 students finished all of their homework before class was over. This, when it says this, it means whatever it said beforehand, so it's talking about the 60 students. So it's saying 60 students represents only 30% of the students. Now, what I have rectangled in blue there, that's the important pieces of information. So we know that this total, since we're talking about students, wouldn't this be total students? Now we don't really care whether or not we know that number yet. Okay, let's just wait a second. We always identify what though when we're doing this? The what? Yeah. The percentage. Because that's what's going to tell us how we are going to cut up our strip diagram, right? That's what's going to tell us whether you use method 1, method 2, or method 3 from your notes. Do I cut it into 4 25% sections? Do I cut it into 5 20% sections? Or do I cut it into 10% sections? So since this is 30%, what method is going to, that says 30% right there, by the way. Which method is going to allow me to be able to see 30%? Yes? So I'm going to have to cut it into 10% sections. So I'm going to try to do this as evenly as possible, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Actually, pretty good. Okay? All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put 10% in each one. We always want to put the percent with the percent sign in each one. Okay, I know it seems kind of repetitive, but this is how I want it done. Every time you do a strip diagram, I expect there to be 2 numbers in there. The percent that each section represents, and then a real number. In this case, an amount of money. Okay? Now, I was doing, I'll do all the money in red. Okay, now, it says 60. We've got to figure out whether 60 students, whether that is a part or whether that is a whole. That's what we've really got to figure out. And you just got to read it real carefully. It says 60 students finished their homework before class was over. But those 60 only represent 30% of all the students. So I'm going to go up here real quick, and I'm going to draw one of these little bracket things. And I'm going to go like that, or you can highlight it, however you want to do it. It doesn't matter. But either way, I'm just showing 30. I'm showing 30% there. What is that representing? Those 30%. What did those 30% do? Yes. That's the 60 students that finished their homework before class was over. So remember, the whole goal to a bar model is to figure out how many is in each one of these little sections. So basically the question becomes, am I going to do 60 divided by 3, or am I going to do 60 divided by 10? Which one do you think it's going to be, guys? What's it going to be here? It's going to be 60 divided by 3. Because listen, these 60 students only represent 30%, only 3 sections of all the students. So I'm going to do 60 divided by 3 because it only represents 3 sections. So 60 divided by 3 is going to give me 20 students. So I know each one of these, oops, Uh-oh. Sorry. Okay. It's a cruel joke at this point. Is it here?
We got you.
Oh boy. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Woo. Okay, so I know that each one of these is representing 20 students. Oh my gosh. 20 students, and I like to put ST for students just because S might look like a 5, and that might confuse you. So I always like to put ST, just something you can try. And again, I'm going to go through and write it in every piece of the strip. Even though it's time consuming, I still want you doing it. Okay, because just to get all of our thoughts kind of organized. 20 students like that. Okay, now the question is, how many total students? Well, there's another hint. It asks for how many total students. So that also will help you to be able to figure out, well, if they're asking for the total, they're not going to give me the total, right? They're going to give me the part. Okay, so 20 times 10 would give me 200 total students. That's how I figured that out. Okay, now if I'm checking with a percent proportion, which you guys all should be doing, definitely tomorrow, because if you make an error, you want to maybe catch yourself if you can. The percent proportion will help you. So we know that the percent proportion is part over whole equals percent over 100. The percent's easy to identify because it has a percent sign next to it. We just have to figure out, is 60 the part of the whole, guys? The part. Cross, multiply, divide, I will get 200. And there we go. Okay? All right, so there's plenty more of those practices earlier in the video if you wanted to practice it. So go ahead and try this one right here. This is learning target number 5, I think. Go ahead and do it. You obviously need to do it with a proportion. Go ahead. Okay, now listen, guys. Remember, your percent proportion never changes, okay? But remember, there are some little tricks here to help you. For instance, remember I said the word is will help you to be able to identify the part, and the word of will help you to be able to figure out what the whole is? Well, this one, obviously, the percent's easy. Regardless if it says is 30%. Don't worry about that. If it's got a percent sign, then we know 30 is going to go there. Now, I understand why this one's tough, and that's why I chose this one to do. Because it doesn't specifically say is a number or of a number. But what it does say is it says of what number. So isn't it basically asking what the whole is?
Yeah.
It's saying we don't know of what. We don't know. So we're trying to figure this out. So that means 18 must be the part. So when we cross multiply and divide, that is going to give us 60. Okay? 60. Okay. So there you go. So that's how you do that.
We do the next one.
Okay, nope. All right, now, I'm not going to do these, but I want you guys all to hear this. Don't start working. Just listen. You're going to have to do some word problems tomorrow. And like this one, I'll just kind of do it with you guys. There's one just like this on the test tomorrow. Very similar anyway. It says a group of students are trying out for the soccer team. Of those students, 22 of them are 7th graders. So if I'm doing a percent proportion, I'm going to do my part to whole equals my percent over 100. Now, I see that it says if 55%, so I'm going to go ahead and shove that 55% in its spot. If 55% of the students trying out are 7th graders, how many students are in all are trying out? So, what is this 55% representing, guys? 7th graders. So wouldn't the part then have to be an actual number of 7th graders?
Yeah.
And then wouldn't this be total and total? So you just got to ask yourself, is 22 representing the total amount of students, or is it representing just the 7th graders? Just the 7th graders. It wouldn't ask for the total if it gave you the total. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you will have to do those, and you can't use is or of on those ones. Okay, you have to just use your kind of knowledge and labels. Kind of use labels like I did there. Okay, and then you'd cross multiply and divide that, and you'd get an answer there. Okay. All right. Now I want to move on to. Let's do that one. Let's do this one right here. Only I'm going to change it real quick. I want to make this 6.5% tax. Okay? Go ahead and do that one real quick. Okay, everybody stop and look. Now, these are going to be really hard to read, but oh my.
Oh, wow.
Now, I'm not even going to put the right answer in, but that's a lot of... and I get it. There is a lot going on in these. You're doing so many little things, and if you're off by a penny, it's going to throw everything off. But you got to make sure you're doing it right. Now, let's talk about these first two here. We have $8.66 and $14.02. If the bill cost, was it $60 something? $65.71. If that's how much the bill costs, how is the total cost all of a sudden going to go down? How is that even possible? Is that possible? No, it is not. So at least from like right here over, at least those make sense for the most part, except for 141. At least those make sense. So let's talk about it. And like I said, you should be writing this down, fixing your work, because the majority of you got it wrong. Okay? Now, here's my two proportions. Watch how I do this. Watch how neat I keep everything. And I don't have the neatest handwriting or anything like that, but I'm just going to do something like this. And I'm basically going to have a tip proportion, and I'm going to have a tax proportion. Nothing changes with my proportion. I'm still doing part to whole equals percent over 100. I'm still doing part to whole over percent over 100 over here. Okay? Only this one is representing tip, this one's representing tax over here. Okay? So, I look at my tip. This is all I'm focusing on. Now, in order to figure out how much tax or how much tip I have to pay, I have to figure out 15% of. Now, the reason I say the word of is because you should know that of represents the whole. Okay? So your food bill is always going to go in the whole. So 15 is obviously going to go there. And then 65.70 is going to go there. Okay, over here, we know that this is only going to be 6.5%. Notice, when I do the proportion method, I don't have to worry about moving the decimal or converting it to a regular number. I don't have to worry about any of that, because it's all in my proportion for me. So I know this is going to be 65.70 here too, because, once again, I've got to figure out 7 or 6.5% of my food. Okay? Now, when you cross multiply and divide the tip here, you get $9.855. That's what you get in your calculator. Remember, money is rounded to how many decimal places? 2. Dimes and pennies. So if you just draw a line right there, just think about it like that. This is either going to be $9.85 or this is going to be $9.86. It's all about your rounding rules. If that 5 tell that 5, does this 5, the one on the right, tell the 5 to stay at 5 or go up to 6? To go up to 6, because remember, 5 or more, it goes up 1. If it's 4 or less, it stays where it is. It stays at that amount of pennies. So this is going to be $9.86 in tip amount. Okay, same thing over here. I'm going to do 6.5 times 65.70 divided by 100, and that gives me
4.2705.
4.207. What is it?
4.2705.
Okay, 705. So this one's actually pretty easy because there's your pennies. Is that going to be 427 or 428? Well, obviously 0 is not going to tell it to round up. It's not 5 or more. It's 4 or less. So this one would just be $4.27. Okay? Now, to find the total cost, you have to take the food bill, $65.70. You have to take the tip amount, which is $9.86. You have to take the tax amount, which is $4.27, and you need to add them together. And when I see all those crazy numbers that we had, all those different answers, I don't know whether you guys are adding them on the side of your paper. I mean, if that's the case, guys, please, just use your calculators. Because listen, everybody in here knows how to add. But everybody in here, including me, you might make a mistake when you're adding. That happens. Don't miss the problem because you made a silly mistake with your math when you knew how to do it. As I look through these answers, everybody, $74 all the way to $79. They're all really close. That tells me there was a simple adding error somewhere. Or you forgot to line up your decimals, or something happened. Don't let that happen on the test. Now, the correct answer ends up being what I say it was? What is it?
8.
Okay. So we were close, some of us, but we were a little bit off. So you got to be real good with your calculator and your rounding rules. Now, real quick here. I just want to make sure everybody's clear on this. There will be one exactly like this on the summative. I mean, like identical. Different numbers, but identical concept. You'll have a food bill, a tax, and a tip. You have to find the total cost. It'll look just like that. But you guys are also going to have one where it's going to say, like for instance, that maybe like shoes. There's shoes that cost $123.15. And it's going to say they are 15% off. Okay? Everybody stay with me for a second because this is going to help you tomorrow. I'm trying to give you that there's a question just like this. So these $123.15 shoes are 15% off. You want to find the new price, or what's called the sale price. Okay? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to find 15% of that. Right, guys? Part over whole equals percent over 100. So I'm going to figure out the 15% is going to go there. Obviously, the price, the original price is going to go there. I'm going to cross multiply and divide. Now listen though, this is where it gets a little bit different. This is going to represent the discount or the savings, how much you're saving. Okay? When you guys get to the test tomorrow, you're going to have to then, there's going to be two parts. There's going to be the first part that's going to say, what is the discount? Which would be what's in green right there. That. Okay? Then part two is going to say, what is the sale price? That is how much did you buy the shoes for, or what is the new price of the shoes after the discount. You're going to have to take $123.15, the original price, subtract your discount, and that'll give you your sale price.